Circumstances are what circumstances are, but that doesn't mean it's the truth. So many of us spend our lives running away from problems instead of running towards solutions.
So as a fractional or as a consultant, any kind of business service provider, if we get stuck in one particular mode, we're going to lose out. I believe the next 12 months are going to be some of the best months for fractionals. More than even the last 2 or 3 years, because even though we've seen this massive uptick in people hanging the fractional flag out there, and here's why.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Okay, no, this is not an episode of Chicken Little. Okay, but honestly, that is how a lot of us feel in business right now. Like the sky is falling. And like everything is going, no matter what side you are on politically, people are feeling like, oh my gosh, a recession is coming. And how do I recession-proof my business? Dean, should we be recession-proofing our businesses?
You mean knee-jerk react to the headlines? Well, I would suggest probably not, right? We see a lot of posts and a lot of experts out there saying exactly that. The sky's falling. We don't know what's going to happen. Do all these dramatic things to protect your business and to bring in that next client. And unfortunately, all of that is an emotional response to what's going on in the world. And very rarely when we react quickly emotionally to something, is that the best and most thought through strategy? Typically not. So my admonition to our audience and to us as business owners is you don't have to recession-proof your business. What we should be doing every single day is what? Building a resilient business that can adapt to the business cycles, to the economic cycles, and to the needs and demands of the marketplace. And so as a fractional or as a consultant, any kind of business service provider, if we get stuck in one particular mode, we're going to lose out. But if we knee-jerk react and run the opposite direction, we're going to run straight into a wall. So our episode today is talking about how to build a resilient business. And what does that mean versus trying to recession-proof your business?
Yeah. And and history has borne this out. I know you and I talked a little bit, and you'll probably talk some about 2008 and some of the companies then, but it goes even further back than that. Let's go all the way back to the Great Depression, right? In the Great Depression in this country, there were a lot of people who were out of work. There were a lot of businesses that went out of business, right? And that's what we remember. But when I researched and studied the Great Depression, there was something that stood out to me, was the number of people who had multiple jobs and the number of businesses that took off.
Yeah.
And so it said that while everyone is looking over here and fixated over here on the problem, and they're all getting the same result over here, there was a group of people who are looking the other way, and they're getting vastly different results.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we do that, Dean?
I think that perception and vision is a big part of it. Right. I'll use an example from 2008. Right. Two brands. Anybody that's our age or thereabouts will know these brands really well. Maybe some of the younger listeners may not. But Best Buy and Circuit City. Right. Big box electronics retailers. If you needed electronic thing, you would go to one of those two stores. That's where we went.
Yeah.
So let's think about what they did in 2008 to try and get through the recession. And I'll say that carefully, get through versus grow or enhance or be better for. So Circuit City probably had a bigger brand reputation at the time than Best Buy. It would have been my go-to before I went to Best Buy for whatever reason. But what Circuit City did during that recessionary time was they pulled back. They tried to recession-proof their business. They laid off, they cut costs. They sort of abandoned service and just were trying to sell more stuff, more product. Well, fast forward to January, February, March of 2009, about a year later, they were gone. They went into bankruptcy. They never recovered. They closed their doors nationwide.
Yeah.
Whereas the competition across the street, Best Buy, the blue brand, right? They said, hang on a minute. We've been building a more resilient business for a while. They had launched the Geek Squad. They had reconfigured their stores to be more customer friendly. They actually thought they shifted from this sort of product centric approach to this service centric approach, which is interesting for a product B2B or B2C retailer. But they made that shift before the recession and they leaned into it during the recession. They actually really leaned into educating their employees so they became product experts to better respond to their customers. It was a service oriented mindset. And so they didn't just make it through. Best Buy grew, it actually thrived, and they became bigger and more competitive post-recession as well. Of course, and they snapped up all of the Circuit City customers. So there's a philosophical difference here, right? Recession-proofing typically means constricting, narrowing our vision, looking down at the ground just in front of us and walking forward slowly. Whereas building a resilient business, you're looking up, you're looking for opportunities. You're changing the way you build and run your business based on the demands of the marketplace today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so important too. There's something very fundamental that you said just now that so many of us miss. So many of us spend our lives running away from problems instead of running towards solutions.
Yeah.
We figure if we run away fast enough, we'll end up in a good place.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of saying, this is where I'm going, that is where, and let me run there as fast as I can.
Yep.
Right? And that's really the difference between recession proofing and being more resilient. Right? And building a business that is able to understand what's going on now, where am I going, and how can I adapt now and still get to where I'm going, versus, oh my gosh, what's going on now? How can I just survive this moment now? Or what we're doing right now. We're not even in a recession yet, but people are already acting like it.
Yeah, we're seeing posts on LinkedIn. That's what stimulated our topic today, is all these posts on LinkedIn about recession proofing. We're not in a recession. Is it a difficult time? Is it an uncertain time? Absolutely. Absolutely. But don't suffer twice, which is really what's happening here, right? I've been telling my members in the Fractional Launchpad, I believe the next 12 months are going to be some of the best months for fractionals. More than even the last 2 or 3 years, because even though we've seen this massive uptick in people hanging the fractional flag out there, and here's why. And this is a difference between looking down and trying to survive and looking up and looking for opportunities mindset. Is SMB, small and medium-sized businesses, they are probably going to pull back from hiring executives, full-time, high-paying, fully loaded executives, because they're uncertain about what's going to happen. Tariffs and economy. Right. However,
because they're
recession-proofing. Exactly. And in this case, we can use this to our advantage. But they still have this talent and experience gap in their leadership team. They still need that COO. They still need that CMO. They still need a head of product development.
100%.
So looking at opportunity, we roll up as a fractional and say, we can give you that executive at a fraction of the cost of the full-time, with no overhead, no benefits, no taxes, and very little risk. And you're going to get probably more impact from that individual, because every minute they spend with you, they're working on strategic stuff and not water cooler, all the other stuff you do as an executive.
Yes, right.
It's going to create more demand for the right people in the right marketplaces looking for the right opportunities. So I believe that that's going to happen in the next 12 months. So we have to be in a position to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think it's really, really important to see and really important to notice there, right? Is every obstacle is an opportunity. There's opportunity in every situation, right? And if you're sitting here listening to us and you're feeling the squeeze because clients are saying, well, I don't know, and well, I don't know, well, I don't know, guess what? They may be saying that, but there's somebody else who isn't. Right? And there's somebody else who needs. And I was reminded of this. Actually, I was just talking with a friend yesterday, and he's in Singapore. And despite everything that's going on in the market, he is serving and having a fabulous time serving Fortune 500 companies. And it's like, the contracts are 50 to 100 grand. They come in, they're easy. We're having a great time. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And so if you're sitting there fighting with this class of business that doesn't want to hire right now because they're sticking their head in the sand because of the recession that might be coming. We've been saying a recession was coming for years. This isn't new.
No, right.
It's not new. It's been at least 2 years we've been talking about the recession that's coming.
Yeah. And when we get into that mode of anticipating the worst, human nature is that we slow down. We stop.
And the worst thing happens.
I really believe, and in my career, I've proven it to myself over and over again, you get what you focus on. And if you read those horrible 100%. Headlines, guess what? How you see the world. You see it through that lens. Yeah. But if you look at it as an opportunity, and you really do believe there is opportunity out there, and my scenario I just laid out there is absolutely true. We're seeing that more and more and more. Members in my community are full. They cannot take on more fractional clients. They're looking for people to refer those next opportunities to. But then I run across people on LinkedIn that are struggling, and I feel for them, but it's what they're focusing on. It's the perception, and it's also how they communicate. Even if they see the opportunity, they're communicating it from that negative perspective, and it comes
from desperation.
Yeah. And then they discount and they take on crappy clients and they churn, and it's just this whole sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. You reminded me of actually a LinkedIn newsletter I did a couple months ago, and we were talking about the ability in business to see, let me see if I remember this correctly, y'all, to see the truth despite circumstance. Circumstances are what circumstances are, but that doesn't mean it's the truth.
Yep.
Okay. And very often we conflate the two and we think circumstances are the truth. And when you think that your circumstance is your truth, then you get stuck right there and you can never see. They're all the old adages of, when one door closes, another one opens. Right. But it's true.
It is. If you allow it to be that way, yeah. If you see it that way.
Right. There's the don't be that fly buzzing against the window trying to get out when there's an open door on the other side of the room.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. But that's where we are. And that's where, my circumstance looks like I've got a glass in front of me and I can't get out. But the truth is there's an open door behind me that I can fly out of.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll give our audience one really easy tactic they can use today. First of all, stop reading the headlines, right? I think that's good, right? Give yourself a break. But seriously, find companies that are hiring for the position that you want to do fractional work in, CIO, CTO, head of, whatever. Reach out to the executives, not the hiring team, but the executives on LinkedIn, and suggest a fractional as an option. You may have to do 20, 50, 100 of them, but there are some that are going to say, hang on a minute, I'm going to get this level of talent, maybe an upgrade in talent than I was expecting to hire for a fraction of the cost. I am uncertain about the economy. We're kind of unsure about this hire. Maybe it's worth a conversation. Put it out there, guys. Why not? You've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great suggestion, man. That's powerful. And let me one up your suggestion if I could. Okay. We'll put a link in the description for this, but there's an app called Dripify. The link will be in the description. Go get that app, because what you can then do is once you have that list of companies and executives, you can then go and you can say, okay, right? Dripify will automate all of that communication for you, getting the connection going, getting the conversation started, so then you can come in and only talk to the people who are actually willing to talk back to you.
Yeah.
And cut your work in by 75%. And this becomes scalable.
Yep. Because that approach is a volume approach, right? We know that. You're going to have to talk to a bunch of people or connect with a bunch of people. But what better way to set up a system that runs and starts conversations with people that otherwise wouldn't be reaching out to you? We're looking for the open door in this situation. And there's loads more opportunities like that.
Yeah. And, we have internally, we're building this AI scraping agent that can scrape different websites and stuff and collate data. And so by the time this episode comes out, we probably have it done. And so, if you want that, so that's the other piece. So if you had an AI scraping agent that can go to Indeed and scrape Indeed and pull off all the companies and all the people, and then go to LinkedIn and find their LinkedIn URLs, and you just drop that into Dripify, you can almost automate this whole thing.
Yep. And as soon as they engage, you just hop in as a human, right? Keep an eye on that LinkedIn inbox and you just get in there and have a conversation. You will generate conversations, if nothing else. And in uncertain times, just having conversations with business owners and execs is a huge boost of morale. It leads to opportunity.
It is. Now, Dean, before we go, you've mentioned this thing that you have that you do, and there are people in it, and they're all overrun with work, and they're like getting, and I'm thinking that someone listening to us probably heard that and said, hold on, how do I get in that thing where I can be overrun with work too?
Well, thank you for asking. So, as many of you know, I've been a fractional for over 14 years, been doing B2B consulting. This is my 20th year. And about 18 months ago, a number of folks in my community and network just asked me, how are you doing this? How do you land these clients? How do you find these high-ticket fractional engagements? And so I started coaching people one-on-one. And that was a lot of fun, but it wasn't where I wanted to take my business. And so what I did is I documented and systemated all the systems that I've used in the last 20 years, and most importantly, the last 14 years, to land high-ticket fractional engagements. And I put it into a coaching program. It's called the Fractional Launchpad Accelerator. So we've got all of the systems, all of the programs, all the training, all the tools, all the templates, all the tech, plus it's a really intimate coaching program, group coaching program as well. So you don't just get the stuff, you get the advice and the guidance, the accountability, and the community too. So that's what I mentioned a couple of times during our episode today. We're looking for those next 4 fractionals that really want to invest in their business and grow when this opportunity is out there more than any other. So if you're interested in learning more, just hit me up. We'll have a link in the description. You can go to fractionallaunchpad.com and find me there, and we can chat.
Fantastic. Well, as always, he's Dean. I'm Atiba. We're the Fractional Pros. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.